Wine world, cellar time, excellent. Woo, 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 woo. Hi, I'm Rich.
And I'm Seth.
Welcome to week 5 of Wine World Happy Hour. We're at Cantiga Wineworks in Fairplay, California. Today, we thought we'd change it up a little bit. We're going to bring you back into our secret lab.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, secret lab, that's where we do things like our analyses, some madcap experiments. You'll see.
So what'd you pour me?
I got one of those too. So this is our 16 Barbera. We're planning on releasing this next month, or even sooner.
Oh yeah, I think that been ripened very cool.
Oh, I know, it's nice. Look, just a flutter of the raspberry.
Hi guys.
Oh hey Christine.
Hi, Christine.
What happened to taking everyone back into the lab?
Oh, I suppose we should do that.
Yeah,
Let's
sooner
go.
than later.
Let's go then.
Hi, welcome to our lab. This is where we do all of our analyses. So today we were going to walk you through taking pH and TA of our wine. TA stands for titratable acidity. So that would basically be looking at the measure of acid in our wines. So to us, acid is a very important factor in our winemaking style.
And actually, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about wine and food pairing and the importance of acidity in how a wine pairs with food. Another reason why acidity is really important is that it allows a wine to age. So knowing if you have a high acid wine, that wine's going to age for a lot longer than a lower acid wine, which you should probably drink up quickly.
And also another thing to note is with your higher acidity and lower pH wines, you don't really need as much of the sulfite to protect it. So as everyone knows, we do a very low minimal sulfite winemaking style. Well, the reason for that is because we don't do the malolactic, which retains the natural acidity from the vineyard. And the acidity is kind of like your preservative, so we don't need the sulfite to protect it as much.
So I guess we need to pull a sample?
I think we do. We were talking about doing Herbert Syrah. A few weeks ago we were doing some tasting trials, so we have some of the samples that we pulled at the time. So this was the Syrah, but I thought we should probably do a fresh one from the barrel. So if we could ask Seth, would you mind grabbing a sample from the barrel? I saw one at the top of our stacks over there. So we'll use the Wine Thief. You remember Seth using the Wine Thief?
Sure.
Thank you.
There you guys go.
Oh, awesome. Thank you,
Great,
Seth.
thank you, Seth.
You're welcome.
So what do you have going on here?
Oh, never mind that. That's my lunch. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at TA. TA is titratable acidity, as I said before. So the way we do that is we have to start with a little bit of water in our flask.
Now that's distilled water, right?
This is distilled water. And this part is really not critical because the water doesn't change the acid. So the principle behind this test is to have a known quantity of wine with an unknown quantity of acid. So what we will do is test for that acid by titrating a known, well, eventually a known amount of this is a sodium hydroxide, which is a base. So this is a 0.1 normal sodium hydroxide. So we will end up titrating this into a known quantity of wine. I'm going to use 5 milliliters. This known quantity of wine will, once we have the amount of sodium hydroxide to neutralize the acid, it can give us a determination of how much acid was in there to begin with.
Do you have a little magnet spinning around there
Yeah.
to help mix it?
They're kind of cool, aren't they? So let me put on my OSHA-approved safety goggles here. So this is a volumetric pipette, and I'm going to take the Syrah that Seth went and thiefed for me. First thing I do is clean it to make sure there's no residual water in it. And of course, if this were a chemical, I wouldn't be using my mouth, I'd be using a suction. But this is wine. If a little got in my mouth, I don't think it's the end of the world.
Might be a good thing.
So I'm looking for exactly 5 mils. And then I will add it to my water. What I'm going to do is titrate using the sodium hydroxide to an endpoint, which would be, if you remember your high school chemistry class, titrating to an endpoint would be, if you use something like phenolphthalein, would be titrating to where you get a color change. Well, it's essentially doing the same thing, but in the case of this one, I'm doing it using a pH meter, so I'm looking at the endpoint based on pH. That's exactly what the phenolphthalein does. So I just want to know at what point does the sodium hydroxide neutralize the acid, and then I can determine how much was in this to begin with. I'm trying to find an endpoint of 8.2 pH, because that has just been identified as the right pH endpoint to look at the neutralizing of the acidity. And of course, everything has to be set just right. So right now, I'm showing a 3.4 pH, so that's the acid that went into the water. Now I will start titrating, so the first thing I do is I record my start point of sodium hydroxide, and remember this is a 0.1 normal. You don't have to know what that means, but it is significant. So I'm starting at 13.2. 13.2 milliliters, and then I will titrate till my endpoint of 8.2, and then the difference will give me my amount of acid using a formula. It takes a lot up front, and then you start having to finesse it one drop at a time to make sure you catch it. So you notice that the color of the water is changing, so we must be getting close. It's turning to a green. So I think I just crossed that 8.2 mark. With one drop it went from 8 to 8.5, so I'm calling this my endpoint. That 8.5 will probably drop down a little bit, and I'm at exactly 17 mils. So now I do my handy dandy math. 3.8 milliliters is how much I did. So using 5 milliliters of wine, I need to multiply this by 1.5, which is my magic number. You could research this later or give me a call. The magic number of 1.5 is going to give me the amount of acid in grams per liter.
So what'd you end up with?
So I actually came up with 5.7 grams per liter. Now remember, this is a Syrah, so Syrah you'd expect a little bit lower acidity. 5.7 is actually pretty good for a Syrah. But if this were, say, Cab, Zinfandel, or a Barbera, you'd be probably looking at more 7 to 7.5. Now, grams per liter, if you divide that by 10, you're going to get percent. So this is really going to be 0.57% of acid based on tartaric. So.
Oh, lunch is ready.
Oh.
Yes.
So that was our analysis of our Syrah, the Herbert Syrah. So this was the one. Great Scott! Wasn't this full before?
So we thought we'd have our winery cat Teeka do the mousing for us today and pick out a wine. What do we have there, Teeka? Ooh, the 08 Petite Syrah. Good choice.
Teeka. Yes, we're opening your wine, Teeka. So
I'm excited
this
to try
is the 08 Petite Syrah. This is off of our estate vineyard, of course.
Now, wasn't 08 the year of the wildfires and the smoke taint?
Yeah, so we had a lot of wildfires. We didn't personally have smoke taint because we were high enough in our elevation. but it did block out the sun for a long time.
Right.
And I know the smoke taint was more in the Anderson Valley and Napa, Sonoma got a lot of it. But it definitely did alter, I remember.
Yeah.
It still smells like a petite though.
Oh, yeah. So this is probably the most consistent of our estate wines. It is so rock solid from year to year. I just love our petite.
Wow, it's really bright.
So
Wow.
a lot of people confuse Syrah and Petite Syrah. So we had just done the analysis on a Syrah, and I think we got, what was it, a 5.7 TA or 0.57% acid. If I'm remembering this correctly, I think this 08 Petite was more in the 7.5 grams per liter, which puts it kind of on the same realm as a Barbera or a Zinfandel.
Yeah.
Bright acidity, which is why even though it's a black fruit, you notice the cork, black fruit tends to be the lower acid, a little harder to pair with foods, but because of 7.5 gram per liter acid, we can put this with Italian food. So we'll use this as a spaghetti.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Petite Syrah grown in the Sierra foothills here has such amazing balance, such great acidity at the same time as being able to really fully ripen and get really developed flavors. So this is a prime example. This is lovely. I don't get any smoke taint on this.
No, not at all. Very lovely.
So we could even put this with tomato pastas. This is a spaghetti wine as well as everything
Or
else.
have it with your pizza.
Yeah.
We'll throw in that eggplant parmesan.
There you
Yes,
go, with the tomato
yes.
sauce.
That sounds
Nice.
amazing.
Now I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. Anyway, is it time to sign off?
I say we should sign off.
So we're wishing everybody all the best. We wish we could see you face to face, but hopefully soon enough that will happen. Meanwhile, stay healthy. If you're getting low on wine, remember that we're here for you. We're still fulfilling curbside orders, and wishing everybody all the best. And cheers.
Cheers.
See you next week.